This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Tech, show number 156, recorded on February 20th, 2014. Here on Home Tech, we cover all your favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home, news, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live, not from the AverageGuy.tv studios, but today I am in the Gallup studios here in Omaha, Nebraska, and we're setting up a brand new studio for Gallup to do our Call to Coach program. And some of you have heard about that. If you go over to coaching.gallup.com, you'll see some podcasts, or a bunch of podcasts now, that I do for Gallup. For my day job, and tonight we're burning in a new studio, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to test it out this evening and mess around with it. So you're seeing some blank walls there. Yes, that's a hole in the wall behind me. Yeah, please notice that. And so we're still kind of putting paint and stuff on the walls in the studio here at the on the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, you can contact the show. Just send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. You can track me down on Twitter, of course, @jcollison, or you can now call in your questions, and I haven't got as many of those as I hoped. So call me, even crank call me, that's fine, 402-478-8450, and I'll play that question right on the show, and we will get it answered. Home Tech's now a part of the Geeks Network. If you've been following Dave, our home server show at all, you know Dave and I are working putting together the Geeks Network, and so find the links to this show and many other great podcasts over at thegeeksnetwork.com. You can join us for chat, listen, watch, or listen to the show, and find all the navigation for Home Tech over at theaverageguy.tv, upper right-hand corner. All right, I got a cast of characters tonight, and you would think by who's on the show, all we're going to talk about is home servers and Gen 8 Microsoft or microservers, but we're not. Okay, we're going to cover some of it, but we've got some other things to talk about as well. All the way over to my left, and coming in from a very, very windy location tonight, maybe even some tornado warnings. If you got to ditch out John, you could do that. John Stutzman, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing out there?
It's we got some snow this morning, but other than that, I think we're expecting some warmer weather, so we're looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, good to see you. Good to have you back on, John. It's been a while.
Great to be here.
To his right, John Zadler, and of course Microsoft MVP and all things home server, or at least he loves to talk about the home server. And John Zadler, welcome.
It's not so windy over here, but it's nice. Hi, Jim. Hi, Kevin, and hi, John.
Hi.
We're gonna have a fun time. Two Johns on the show.
It's gonna be. We'll have to say Stutzman and Zadler as we do that, and then minus a beard, and we hardly recognized him when he came on the show. Kevin Schoonover. Kevin, how are you?
Very good. This microserver, I'm not familiar.
What is this microserver?
What is this technology you speak of?
What are those things?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have one myself, so we won't have to talk about that. But let's dive right in a little bit. We only get John Zadler on Home Tech about every other month or so, and whenever he comes on, he has to cover part of some home server news and some other things. And I know tonight he's got some questions, and he asked particularly for you, John Stutzman, although I think Schoonover will be able to fill in as well. And so we're going to let John ask a few of those questions that he's got around. It's Gen 8, right? Microserver stuff, John?
Yep, Gen 8.
So
my thing was, because I listened to the home server show podcast there that played this week, and you were talking a bit about your setup and stuff, and your P222 RAID card you installed, and some of the forum posts there. So my question was, because I was playing around, or I'm kind of looking, I'm interested in the Western Digital box there. Well, not that interested to buy, but just interested. I like what their Western Digital is presenting, because before they had a DX4000, which had Windows Storage Server 2008 R2. It's an Atom-based little box, and that came out like maybe I guess 2 years now, and folks have been saying, hey, when are you going to get on the new bandwagon? Because since then the Server 2012 Essentials came out, and then the R2. And so now they upgraded their box with a Xeon processor, and then they have two models. One has a before the 4 drives were the OS was on a RAID on the 4 drives, and that's how they did it. And now the new box, they have a bit like what the forum members have been doing is they're saying, look, let's put the OS on either an SSD drive or on a floppy drive. Not a floppy. Yeah, floppy drive, right?
On a floppy.
On spindle drive, but like let's say a laptop drive, a small drive, and just have it like hidden away, and then use the whole RAID array for storage. So that's basically what they did. They have, the 5100 has a one drive, and it's a dual core Xeon, and the 6100 has two spindle drives with the OS, 320 gigs in a RAID 0, I think, and then that's it. And the Xeon is quad core. So I was just saying, and that box is $3,000 in that price range. It's a turnkey operation, right? You order the box, the OS is there, everything is running, you're all good to go. But the way they set up their RAID, it's a software RAID. So I was kind of looking, well, how would that compare if we decided to, build out a microserver, and more or less kind of put the same thing, either use Kevin's attachment and put two laptop drives that way, or two laptop drives I'm sure would be fast enough, and then put the OS, say, well, now we would have, would we use the built-in RAID array, or would we, use the P222? So like I wanted to know like what the pricing on that is, and the other advantage with the microserver is that you can swap out the CPU. So yeah, you could put in a Xeon processor. So I just want to ask you to start off with the like your Xeon processor. Is that a dual core or a quad core that you put in there?
I put in a Xeon E3-1265 LV2, which is 4 cores with 8 hyperthreads, and I have a table over at the Home Server Show that lists the stats on it and also the passmark scores. So you could compare that. You could look at the passmark score for that and compare that to other CPUs. And in fact, I compared it also in the table. I compared it to previous microservers, and on my own, I had also compared it to some other machines that I had, like my i7 that I have now as my desktop, but it's several years old, so it's like several generations back. But so it was interesting. I think a good thing to do if you're looking at just raw CPU horsepower, you want a benchmark sort of as a first cut to look at things. You could go and look at the passmark scores. Now, that doesn't tell you everything, but it does give you a starting place on how the CPUs compare. But then there's other things in the build and stuff that can impact how well the machine operates. So
okay. And how much do those Xeon quad cores go for? Do you know?
Well, I paid $270 for that,
okay.
But I got it on eBay. It was
okay.
used.
And did you?
eBay
How much
used or eBay new?
I got it used, but there are others. I think Kevin, didn't you put in was it the E1220L?
Yeah. It was. That's one of the lower power ones. It's only 17 watts, and that's a dual core, so a little less performance.
But it's got 4 hyperthreads.
Yep.
And aren't those running like what, 100?
Yeah, they're hard to find because they were never released as a retail product. So when you find them, they're kind of popping out at they sold them to people for appliances. So you seem to find them that way. But I want to say I paid like 115 for it. It was kind of a really good value at the time.
Okay, and the OS. So the OS you have it on. Are you running? What did you say? Yesterday you said you were running 2011, but that was on your Gen 7, right? Your N40L or? John,
Are you?
What were you saying?
You asking me?
Yeah, well, both of you, but you first. Yeah.
Yeah, I was running server 2012, and I ran server 2012 R2 for a little while, and then I went back to 2012. And now for the last few weeks I've been running Windows Home Server 2011, and I just did my second install of 2011 last night, and I basically did it so that I could go through and map out all the steps, and I just posted in the over at the forums over at the Home Server Show all the steps that I went through to install it 2011 on there, and I also videotaped the install, most of the install. There's some more things I want to do on the setting up the arrays. I'm going to videotape that and try to put it together in something that looks decent, and if it looks decent, I'll put it out there, and if it doesn't,
Okay.
it'll die a silent death.
But that's on the so that OS. Did you put it on a spindle drive on the laptop drive on the or is it part of the array?
Last night I put it on the system board built-in RAID array. It's a B120i. I put it on ports 1 and 2, which are the two SATA 3 ports that are in the microserver, and I put it on 2 SSDs that I put in a RAID 0. And I was showing Jim earlier on a share screen some ATTOs that I just did, and like I told Jim, it's really snappy now. I click on an icon and everything is fast.
It's very fast.
In fact, I haven't even tried timing. I got it here. Timing how fast it takes to load the 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds.
Super scientific way of.
Cool. And Kevin, what about you? Is it is your OS? Which OS are you running it on? What? How is it on the laptop drive or?
So much like John, when you ask what we're running, my Gen 8 is far from production. It's totally a lab computer right now. So my kind of standard build has always been a pair of drives mirrored. So RAID 1 on a pair of drives for the OS, and then 4 drives in the swappable bays connected to some other RAID card. So the B120 built in does, just like John said, the RAID. I happen to be running RAID 1 on a pair of Velociraptor drives, and that's kind of my main thing. And then for OS, I've been running 2011, played with 2012 R2 a little bit. I went back to 2012 Essentials because lately I've been trying to play with the HP Sim, the System Information Manager product, to try and I want to get to a state where on a supported OS with supported hardware, I've got really good event reporting capabilities.
And John, I should tell you too that this last thing is kind of an outlier. I'm been experimenting with it. Before that, I did it on an SSD, on a single SSD, but I set it up in a single drive RAID 0 because I'd wanted to try that and see how that worked. Before that, when I was playing with 2012 and 2012 R2, I was using Velocity Raptors, just 150 gig Velocity Raptors, and I had 2 of them. I had them mounted on a Schoondoggy drive mount, and I would, well, before that I had them in the 4 drive cage, but I would go between having them in a RAID 1, I'd wipe that one out, and I'd set them up as a RAID 0, and I'd install the OS again, and of course RAID 0 is a whole lot more fun when you're just playing anyway. So that's what of course, I mean, anybody that's listening in, it's really insanity to have your OS drive on a RAID 0 because it's RAID 0's suicide RAID. That's what they call it. And but if you're playing around, I mean, you might as well have fun, and that's my philosophy anyway.
Okay, I want to ask you guys, explain to me the difference here. Since I don't have a Gen 8, here's the deal. With the, I guess the Gen 7, the N36, the 40, and the 54, basically you had that what was that connector? The SFF 80, what do you call it? 8080, right? You have that connector that goes on the motherboard that plugs into the cage, and now you have your 4 drives there. Then you had your SATA connection on the motherboard, which we would hack the BIOS to make it run a little quicker, and then we would put, we say, okay, we'll put our OS on that guy, and that's how we roll. But with the Gen 8, it's like you're saying, well, I'm putting in two laptop drives or whatever, and I'm putting them in a RAID. it's like, okay, well, like how does that, how many connections you have? Like what's going on? When you say you have it on the RAID, do you still have 4 drives that you could put in the cage? Do you see where I'm kind of going with that?
So in my configuration, just imagine, so with the P222 there, just like on any of the microservers, I'm pulling the SF8087 connection out of the motherboard, and I'm plugging that into the P222. So that gives me the high-performance RAID card of the P222 driving the 4 bays. Then I pick up a SFF8087 fan-out cable. I plug that into the motherboard, which on the Gen 8 is actually the B120 RAID controller, and then I can cable that off to up to 4 other drives. If you look at John's last build, John was driving 4 drives in the cage off from the P222, and then 2 drives on the bracket with the B120, and then 2 SSDs up on the top with the other 2 ports of the B120. So technically, he had 8 drives running in a Gen 8.
Well, I also had the USB DVD drive on top.
9 drives.
9 drives.
So then the thing is, if you don't have that secondary RAID card, you're maxed out at 4 drives, right? Do you have a SATA connection? 5?
Yep.
Okay,
5.
So 4 on the controller, and then because I know they have like
it's 5 on the controller.
Okay, so 4 are going to the cage, right?
And then there's a SATA connector on the system board that is there for the optical disk drive. But you can also, a lot of people have gone and they've set it and used that for an SSD up in the ODD space area, and have run their OS off, say, the SSD, or you could also do it on a spinner, and then you still then have the 4 drive cage for your data. Several people have even put in drives in there, and Kevin, didn't they do it like in single disk RAID zeros, each of them individually, and then use like drive pool or something, or
yep.
or you could do a RAID 10 if you want, just whatever. But the thing that I like, it's a big boys machine though, the RAIDs and everything. It's really a different experience from coming from Rocket RAID.
Okay, so the built-in RAID controller, that's the B120, that's on there. You can, if you use that guy, you can set that to a RAID 5 and a 10, or just
no 1, 0, or 10.
1, 0, or 10. So, and then the previous gen, it was only 0 and 1. Like you could either set your RAID to 0 or 1.
No, I think you could do 1, 0, 10 there.
10, yeah.
Yeah. The nice part with the B120 is technically they took, if you think so HP calls their RAID controllers smart array controllers, and the B120 is a dynamic RAID controller, and basically what they did was they basically wrote a software RAID of the smart array controller. So if you have the B120 enabled and you have the HP, one of the smart array controllers like the 222 in there, and you load up the HP management tool, it sees them both. So all the HP management tools support all those devices. And then, so say you started so one of the limitations of the B120 is it's kind of a set it and leave it kind of thing. It's not, we're running into things where guys set up a RAID 1 with 2 drives, and then they wanted to add another 2 drives and turn it into a RAID 10. The B120 technically won't do that. It doesn't support RAID migrations. I don't know about RAID expansion. So say if you started with a RAID 0 of 2 drives, if you added a couple more drives, would you be able to grab them all up? But it does support, so just my playing around, I set up a RAID 10 on 4 drives off the B120 controller. I pulled the plug, plugged that directly into the P222, and it picked it right up. So part of the HP thing that I like with their RAID controllers is your RAID sets are migratable. You can move them between controllers, and managing that environment is nice. But it's kind of what I put in the show notes, is there's a good and a bad side to the fact that this box is a real ProLiant server. For whatever reason, HP only certified the P222 RAID controller in it. So all the other HP RAID controllers work in the box, but they don't report through the ILO, the Integrated Lights Out Management. So it's kind of frustrating for some guys because they think, hey, I bought the Gen 8 and I've got an older P212 controller and I wanted to use that and it works fine, but I can't do event monitoring because it doesn't get seen in ILO. So there's a few gotchas there that people have to watch out for, but it's part of the thing of this is a real ProLiant, and you kind of got to live and die by the approval matrix.
Cool. And Jim, do you have time for one more long question?
Yeah, go ahead. Why not?
A long question. That question would be, okay, the difference between the Gen 7 and the Gen 8, like you just was talking about, is the ILO. So how would can you explain how would people, or anybody, if I had a Gen 8, how would I connect, like let's say I want to install the OS on that box, but that box is, let's say that box is somebody else's location, and I want to get in through, I'm at home and I want to get in through over the net, over the internet, and get that going on that box. Is that possible?
Sure.
Okay, so what happens now?
So John's actually probably played with this more lately with so ILO has other things built into it like the intelligent provisioning, but just think in terms of ILO. The easiest way I think about it is when you have a box with ILO, there's technically two computers in that box. There's the regular server motherboard, and then there's this other processor running on the motherboard that gets assigned its own IP address. So as you're booting up, you'll see it, if you've got it set for DHCP, you'll see ILO get assigned its own IP address. If you go to any computer on that network and type in that IP address, it'll take you to the ILO login screen and you can log right in. So for your question about, say you wanted to set up a box remotely, you'd have to VPN into that network. So you'd physically have to be on the network. So you'd have to RDP, or sometimes I use TeamViewer to hop into a box on that network, and then I can launch a browser and open up that IP address. And then once I open that up, I put in my password and I'm in the box. Now, John, you were just updating some intelligent provisioning and things with that. You've kind of used IP quite a bit, haven't you?
I've been playing with it. I had some disappointments with IP just because, like even with Server 2012, if you used it the way it's set up, the OS drive, it kind of like over-provisioned the drive, and then when you set up server backup, it would crash because not all the drive was there that it thought it was there. And but then you could fix that just by going in and you just reduce the size of your C drive. You knock 500 megs off, and there you go. It works. So I haven't tried 1.6. I got to play with 2012 or 2011 now for a while before I can do some IP stuff. But the biggest thing that I've noticed since I loaded the stuff last night is the RAID controller management. It's a whole new interface.
Yep.
And it took some getting used to for me. But a thing that is really cool that I love in seeing, I'd had these questions, and I ask you guys these questions like the B120i and the P222 weren't showing up together when I went to storage, listing my storage, and it would show it's supposed to show the controllers, your logical drives, and then you can get the hard drives that make that up. Well, the B120i was showing up, but my P222 wasn't showing up, or at least not all the time. And I'd ask you guys, and you guys were seeing it, and I wasn't seeing my P222. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's me. Well, then I get these updates last night. I loaded them in, and that was one of the first things I checked, and it was just like, wow, this is great. I'm loving it. And I could see everything there. I could see all 8 of my drives that were in there. until I wiped it and started reinstalling 2011.
Mm-hmm.
But well, the controller, it still shows the two controllers and everything, which is nice. But it only shows, if I have a logical drive, it'll show the logical drive and the drive's attached. But the 222, when I did the install, I just erased everything. But so it's still taken. Like I said, I just been playing with the new updates, to the IP and the updates to ILO, and since last night. And I've also played with HP some, but it doesn't seem to do much with 2011 except maybe firmware updates. But I did find in IP 1.6, when you go in there and you go in there for firmware updates, it did have my P222 in there, and it also has the flashback write cache needed a firmware update. I'd updated everything else, but it showed that needing an update, and so I went to install the update, and that failed. So I tried it 2 more times, and it still failed. So I'm kind of scratching my head right now to figure out what I'm going to do about that, or if I need to open a ticket, or
It'd be a good one to pop a ticket in on and see.
Yeah, since my Gen 8 is under warranty for quite a few more months, I guess maybe I better get that ticket in.
Take advantage of it for sure.
Hey,
I was thinking as we were. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
I was just to say, maybe a closing thought to what Mr. Zadler was asking about is on the ILO function, John. If you're talking about remotely deploying for people, I've barely played with it, but there's a function where, so if you have another computer set up on the same network, ILO will let you mount virtual images. So you could put all your ISO images on different PCs and then mount those up as virtual images to load on the Gen 8. And then if you get the advanced ILO key like John and I have, it also gives you a built-in virtual KVM. So very, very feature-rich. And if you'd like, I'll throw you out the offer that I need to clean it up a little bit, but I could set something up for you to remote into the lab at work, and you could hop on one of my machines and play with ILO on the Gen 8.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. And anybody play around with that? That other attachment that they have? It's a switch or something, right? It's sort of like the same form factor. It sits on the top of the or usually they put it on the top of the microserver.
I bought one, but I have had no time to hook it up.
And what is that? That's just a switch with that is anything specific about it? Special?
It's a managed 8-port switch that supposedly the intelligent provisioning picks it up and gives you some advantages in the process of deploying boxes. So there is, once again, for that remote deployment thing you're talking about, there's apparently some advantages of using that switch with it.
Cool.
Man, we are data nerds. Oh my God. I'm just gonna cut that part out and send it over to Dave. Just say, play this on the next home server show. No, that's awesome. Some good stuff there. I guess as you guys were talking, I was thinking about how many more options we got as home server enthusiasts when they came out with the N36, N40, N54, and the Gen 8. We just, it really, I mean, it might have revitalized the home server concept in some ways. Those pieces of hardware now I've never heard so much chat about hardware. We used to talk about the software all the time, and we've really dropped the software conversation for the most part. We do talk about add-ins and some other things from time to time, but really the focus has gone back to the hardware. So we've kind of come, I don't want to say we've come full circle, but we've gone at least from the software chat to the hardware chat. So pretty interesting what HP has done there. I don't even know, we used to say on Home Server Show, I don't even know if they intended to do this. I don't think anybody sat down on HP and was like, hey, let's revitalize the home server community.
I'm sure it was not on their radar, but
no.
From our discussions with them, people in those groups are very well aware of the activity from podcasts like yours. So.
Yeah, no, right on. So it's been crazy, and I have not spent, one of the things I haven't done is spent a lot of time on the hardware. I've got an N40L that's set up. It's set it and forget it. It just kind of runs and does its thing, and I'm super happy with it. And I'll just run that box till it dies. At this point,
it's a great machine.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Jim, you were saying the package, the bundles and stuff. I got my when you guys shipped me the N40L, it came with the Windows Home Server 2011. Included in the bundle. And
Right.
And we've always seen these specials going on, $100 here and there and stuff. So, but I don't think I've seen a special where, let's say, now you're basically, your only current choice is Windows Server 2012 R2 Essentials. I would like to see a bundle. Anybody seen a Gen 8 with a bundle? Because the thing is the Gen 8 they don't send them with a hard drive, right? Whereas the Gen 7 they sent you a 250 gig hard drive. These guys don't have.
The base unit doesn't, but there is a version that does come with a drive.
Okay. But then anybody seen a bundle where they give you the Gen 8 and the R2 Essentials?
Nothing yet.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, that software is like, you're talking $400, 400 plus, so it would be nice. And the Gen 8 is around $480 or did the price drop down?
I saw it as low as $390 something at one point. Yep. Somebody actually used our Amazon affiliate link to buy 2012 on Amazon, and it was like $390 or something like that. So if you're gonna buy Windows Server R2 Essentials, go to our Amazon affiliate link, theaverageguy.tv/Amazon. I appreciate that.
I think it's $399 at Newegg. I think.
Okay.
One of the times I checked anyway, it was for a while.
Yeah.
So.
Ken was asking me in chat, is that a 2011 box? And yes, it's a N40L with 2011. If you're listening to this, maybe, and not many of you would be, but listening to this and you haven't heard Home Server Show, head over to homeservershow.com. If you're interested at all in anything around home servers or what we've done with what these guys were talking about, if that sounds interesting, but maybe it was a little too advanced, we got stuff from beginners to advanced over at homeservershow.com. The forums are really the strength there. So homeservershow.com/forums. All three of these guys are out there all the time talking home servers. And it's more than just setting up a server in your house. Not everybody needs that. And so there's discussions around NAS boxes and some of those other items that are out there. So check that out, homeservershow.com. John, you had a question in pre-show. John Stutzman, you had a question in pre-show. We were talking about how to get rid of your hard drives. And it's maybe a discussion we haven't had in a while. And I jokingly said, take a hammer and a nail, and that's one way to get rid of it. But you had a kind of an interesting dilemma here where the hard drive's maybe not spinning enough that you can actually write the ones and zeros to it. Is that the problem?
Well, yeah. If I have a hard drive failing, if I can, I would like to set it in and get the, if it's on warranty, get a replacement. And if it's more than a couple of years old, it's kind of a waste of time. But I've had several drives that failed in a cluster, sort of, and they're Seagates, and not to knock Seagate or anything. All companies have bad drives, but using the C-Tools and going in, and C-Tools says, yeah, it's really bad. And C-Tools has a utility that would allow you to supposedly write zeros on across the entire hard drive. I mean, it takes a long time, but basically, as best you can, you'd kill anything that's on that hard drive before you sent it in. But the drives are bad enough that C-Tools crashes before it gets very far because it's having so many problems with the drive. So it's sort of a question, well, do I send it in and hope, that they're really honest when they say that they delete everything that's on the drives as soon as they arrive, or do I say, the heck with it, I've gotten 2 years out of it, maybe I should just take a screwdriver to it or hammer and nails to it. And,
and your concern, right, is if you have to send that drive back in, right, an RMA or for warranty.
Right. You want to get the data.
You are sending it back. Do you think they really have time to pull that drive out and?
Yeah. I don't think they really care.
Yeah.
They probably have like a big magnet. They probably don't put it on the computer to kind of erase it or whatever. They probably do some kind of pass it through an X-ray machine and then the drive is just wiped.
I don't even think they spend that much time in. They've got this big shredder that they just toss it into and it just grinds it up.
Once they determine that it is a good serial number and it's under warranty, they blow it away.
Yeah.
So there are for big government sites, there are very expensive disk drive degaussers that you don't need the drive to be running. You just set it in there and it magnetizes the drive. I have an old degaussing ring that we used to use on monitors to clear up color spots on old tube monitors. I'll have to dig that out this weekend and give it a try. See if I can erase a drive with it. People on the interweb claim a monitor degaussing ring will erase a drive. So the challenge is thrown, I guess.
What if I use a magnet from a 200-watt speaker? Is that going to help me?
I think. Well, so sorry for another story, but a friend of ours worked at. She does hearing testing, and years ago she would call me up and say, "Hey, every time I go to this clinic, my hard drive gets messed up in my laptop." And literally, I went to work with her one day, and the wall of the room that she did hearing tests in backed up to their MRI machine, and found that there probably really wasn't enough shielding between the MRI machine and her laptop. Pretty well proved that the MRI was doing bad things to her laptop. So magnets is bad things for drives.
Does bad stuff, although not consistently bad. But
right.
Kevin, what do you think when you send your drive in and do you think all of them, Ken asked an interesting question, where do refurbished drives come from? And I have an opinion on that, but when we send our drives back, they're not fixing those and then sending them back as refurbished, right?
I don't believe so. Back in my when I've been in distribution for years, and we've sold drives from Quantum and WD. I've always been told that the refurb drives, spinner drives, are the old Quantum factory. A friend of mine got to go through it in Japan, and he said it was kind of creepy because there was like 4 people in the whole factory. There's nobody there. It's all robotic. And drives fail when they come out the end of the process. And instead of throwing those away or recycling them, they quickly go through them and determine, this one had a bad seal on the bearing, or this one had a bad controller board. And they quickly fix them, and those cannot be sold as new, so they get sold as refurbs. So what I've always been told around disk drives is it's something that failed at the factory, and it gets refurbished at the factory and then sold as a separate product.
Yeah, I think our drives get ground up and recycled.
Yep, the old ones do. Yeah.
So John, good question. I always recommend, if you've got a drive that you're really worried about and you can't get it stops working functionally, it stops working. If you just drive a nail through the case a couple times, that really will render it. It's so hard to get that. And if someone's going to work that hard to get your data, they're going to do it in other ways. They're not going to wait around for you to throw your hard drive in the trash. So, there's a point where it makes sense and probably a point where it doesn't make sense. So John Stutzman, you mentioned the Seagate tools that has the ability to overwrite the drives. What other some quick we haven't covered this in a while, but what other some quick tools that you can use to blow away that data or write over? I know Acronis will do some of that. Mm-hmm. What else? Anybody?
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking, throwing it out to all three.
Well, okay. Well, I don't know. I was trying to use the C tools just because it was a Seagate drive, and I wanted to keep the thread of using Seagate stuff with the drive. But there's other things I guess that you could do.
Go out to I forget the name of it, but I go out to CNET's download site and just do a web search for DoD disk wipe.
Yep, there you go.
And there's about 2 or 3 of them.
Other Jim says DBAN.
Yep, yeah. DBAN is good. Kill disk is good.
Derek's boot and Nuke.
Yep.
Well, you could also go to My Hard Drive Died. Go to his website, and he has a list of stuff too.
Yep.
I've never heard of EWE. Is that EU? Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah. No, I haven't. Drash, no, put that in EWE. I haven't heard of that. Yeah, there's some tools out there. Does SpinRite, does it have an erase feature in it?
Yeah, on 4 terabyte drives. And also on 3 terabyte drives, it screws them all up.
Yeah, Josh.
I think there's a story there.
Yeah, there is.
Has that already been said on a podcast once?
I believe so.
That story, okay.
A long
All right,
time
we'll let it
ago.
go. We'll let it go.
Hey Jim, I'm gonna grab a prop. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hey Jim, I just wanted to put out tell you, for those who had this little issue. It's a funny thing that happened to me about a week or two ago on my. I'm still running a Windows Home Server version 1 box, And next thing you know, I got an update because I'm running the Grid Junction add-in. You remember that one, the Grid Junction from Alexander Kent there? He wrote that app for it's an add-in, and will tell you your power down your server or tell you if there was alerts and stuff like that when you lost power. And a few folks, and it wasn't just me. Like I got a pop-up, and it says nowadays, right? I mean, how old is Windows Home Server version 1? If you see a pop-up that says, there's an update for your add-in available, it's like, what? Wait, what happened? So it's like I looked and it said, yeah, there's an update for Grid Junction add-in. So I went to his site, but he closed that down and stuff like that. And then I even went into the home server. I did a little bit of search in the forums and also on the internet and stuff like that. And a few guys got that information, that sort of pop-up. And apparently it's something to do with I don't know if the guy I sent an email to Alexander Kent, and he said I think somebody else bought the name and stuff like that, and then when they sort of like activate it or register it, and then all of a sudden it sends some kind of request, a yes answer. Okay. So next thing you know, this thing pops up and it tells you. So everybody was all excited to think that there was they got an update for their add-in, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, nobody's updating version 1 stuff anymore. Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, there's some nice other add-ins that are getting updated. Let me tell you, like the good point that you guys should listen to if you're into the add-in iHome server. Mike Fauché did a podcast there just recently. He talked to the developer of iHome Server, which is basically that guy had started off with the add-in for Windows Home Server version 1. Then he expanded to 2011. I think it runs on Server 2012 R2, and now this version 3 that's in beta. It's more for he's trying to now, just like some of the other guys, just like DriveBender. Remember they made their DriveBender, yeah. They made they started with a home server, and then they say, well, let's see if we can apply it to Windows 7, Windows 8.
Yeah.
So that's why this guy is doing. So I mean, I'm running that add-in on my version 1 and on my 2011 box. So some guys are still supporting. And the funny thing is, you bring me up another point. I got an email the other day from Perfect Disk, and it was Perfect Disk 13, and they're saying supports Windows Home Server version 1 and 2011. But I went to download it, I went to install it, and one of the things is I think they stopped at Perfect Disk stopped at version 10, where they had the built-in the tab in the console. Mm-hmm. I think they stopped at 10, and then they came out with a 12 or the 12.5, and that one you have to remote into the server. It's a bit of a messy thing and stuff. And now they came out with 13. Anyway, I got the email. I don't know how many months it's been out, but anyway, I got an email last week saying 13 is out. So like I went, and this is supports version 1. I thought I would get my nice icon because I like that, because I can never have enough add-ins on my server. I got about 28 going there, so it takes about 5 minutes to boot up the console. So, but no add-ins. So I mean, no tab for Perfect Disk. So there's my little story.
There you go. There's another update for you. Hey, I want to talk a little bit. Another issue John Stutzman was having. He pinged me about this. I heard about this the other day. I can't remember how I heard about it, but seems like you're having some issues, John. And by the way, not home server or hard drive related, with your Skype, right? And you're getting some echo. You do a lot of Skype with your family, and you're getting some echo back. What's the problem there?
Yeah, when using the C920 and you use the microphone in it, and it's going to the speakers in your TV, and if you're doing that on both ends, you would get feedback because the mic in the C920 would pick up the sound from the speakers, and you'd get some reverberations. And we've been trying to figure out what we could do, because we've been kind of dealing with this for over 2 years now. And my wife and I actually we took my Yeti, plugged it into the HTPC, and set the Yeti on a table near us, and then I plugged in two Apple type headphones like what I have here. Plugged those in. I had two of them, so I had a connector that
Got a splitter in there.
Yeah, it's like a Y connector or splitter.
Splitter.
Plugged them both in there, so we both are wearing the earbuds, and then using the Yeti as our microphone, and that worked even though the other side, didn't have that set up because we had headphones on.
Yeah.
That killed the reverberation, and we've had some very good conversations that way. So
it's a good workaround. Although, so the C920 has some really advanced noise canceling capabilities. So
yeah, that doesn't work.
I'm really surprised to begin with. I'm surprised. You have to have kind of, I think, a unique situation. The TV, you're running the 920 on what kind of equipment? There in front, it's a HTPC, I assume.
Right. Yeah. It's.
And what version?
What version
of Windows are you? Is it Windows 7, Windows 8?
8.1.
8.1. Okay.
Yeah. It's actually it's listed in over in the forums of the Home Server Show if you go to builds for HTPCs.
Okay.
And I built it with an i5 and specifically built it for basically video conferencing.
Yeah.
Is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're doing over Hangouts or Skype, and I also built it. I have a copy of Camtasia on that to record the calls, and it's hooked up to the TV as a Samsung.
How far are those speakers away from the camera on the TV?
Well, the 920 is on top of the TV,
and where's the speaker location?
It's in the TV.
But I mean, it's sides or on the bottom?
It's on the sides.
It's on the sides coming down. So
yeah.
Yeah, so those speakers are probably have some unidirectional capabilities to them to flood the room with that sound, and it's probably pointing towards that. The C920 microphone. I'm staring at a bunch of them right here. They sit on the sides, and one of the disadvantages I should say in your case is they're stereo, and so they've got microphones pointing out on both sides. And so the speakers on your TV are coming in, and the microphone is pointing out, and you have probably a perfect setup to get that kind of echo on that. Did you try? You don't have a pair of just like a pair of regular speakers you can plug into the computer instead, and maybe point those away from the microphone to try to see if that eliminates the echo? Did you try that at all, or could you try that?
I haven't tried that.
Sure, that's one of the things, because I get that all the time here when I do podcasting with folks. I get a lot of guests in what we do for Gallup, and I always, whenever we get echo, I always have them just turn those speakers facing out, and it eliminates that echo almost 100% of the time. Now, huge disadvantage to you, because you want to hear it through your TV, right? You want to hear it through your TV speakers. Right. Why can't that just work? And if you're going to plug something in, your Yeti's a great way to do it. That's why we use earbuds for the podcast, right? Is because it eliminates any echo that's going to be in there. So that works well for you. But I think it's just a situation where your TV speakers are pointing in and that C920 is pointing out. If you could move that C920 forward or the speakers back, which you can't because they're attached to the TV, it probably would eliminate it pretty quick.
Probably. But with the Yeti, it's just one thing to plug in.
No, and it's a great solution. That's a great way, and you're going to get great sound that way with them. So it's not a bad way. And that Yeti's a good mic to do it for groups of people. That we were talking in the pre-show about microphones. I was telling you guys I've sold about 20. Well, I've sold through the Amazon link. I've probably sold 100 of these microphones as we've told people about them. I bet I bought 20 of these things just for myself for the various things that we do. I mean, Gallup has. I think we've got 8 or 10 of them in stock that we use for guests and such. But this mic actually wouldn't be good for what you're doing with the family, where you're trying to sit around it, because you kind of got to get right up on it. That Yeti has got that dynamic or that condenser mic in it, and it'll pick up sound from a ways away. So good. Well, there you go. Any other, Kevin or John, any other thoughts on that issue? I know that's a real common. People hate that when you're trying to do that kind of stuff, and I think just more and more people are going to do it. And noise canceling should take care of it, but it didn't.
I hear there's supposed to be something going on with Microsoft with Skype and the links. Their software link for conferencing.
Yep.
And then I'm not sure if I saw this on some website, like a tech website, and I think that HP might have come out with, or will be coming out with, almost like a little box, like a little. It looks like the size of a router, and that's going to be like a communication type thing. So you can do stuff like this. Basically, plug that to your TV and either use maybe Skype or maybe the links in this case. I don't know if it's running Android or whatever, but basically it's like a little type of box like that, so that you can talk to your families through your TV and have a good experience that way. Have you guys seen any of that?
I just saw the announcement around it, and I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's almost like a little Chrome box. I think it's running Android or some variant of it.
Okay.
And that seems to be a common thing these days. You look at how in the enterprise, thin clients flopped over to ARM processors, and they can run Google, they can run thin client for virtual desktop sessions. So the hardware is getting sort of synonymous with this little ARM processor, and then you just choose what you're going to run on it.
Cool. Hey Jim, before we go there, I wanted to tell you I listened to last night. I got your feed from Christian's tech guy there.
We call it Cyber Frontiers. Yeah, I'll talk about that.
It got pushed to me, so I said, "Hey, I'll listen to it." It's not like it's always interesting. It's a tech topic, It's like, and I listened and he didn't take a breath,
It's good old Christian.
He kept going. He got energy. He kept going, and I listened right to the end. So it was interesting, all he had to say, about the school and stuff like that, and how this, big data kind of, affects, the future. Like, people will want to have that information and give them feedback about, how, like you said, maybe the power grid is going to work, and maybe people with transportation and stuff like that. So it was an interesting subject. So nice job on that.
Oh, I'm glad you got a chance to listen to it, John. If you are behind on your podcast listening for us, I put that Cyber Frontiers in the Home Tech feed, and so if you're a regular Home Tech listener, you're going to get the first 5, and then we're gonna pull it out. So if you don't like it, you don't want to listen to it, just skip them. But I want to give everybody a chance that listens to Home Tech. Christian's been a big part of Home Tech for a long time. He's really busy in school, not able to make as many shows for Home Tech as we'd like. But that's okay. So now about once a month, and actually we're doing one Friday. If you're listening to the recorded version of this, you've already missed it. But if you're listening to the live version, tomorrow night around 8 Central, we that's a podcast that I'm not going to try and advertise very much to do live. If you're around and you got nothing else to do, watch my Twitter feed, and I'll probably let you know we're going live and when. But sit down with Christian. The very first podcast really sets the stage for what he wants to do. And if you watch the news at all, you know that there was a breach in security at the University of Maryland just this week, and he's going to talk about it. So I think he's a kid that's right in the middle of a lot of stuff, and we've got an amazing opportunity to interview him and to learn some cool things about big data and cybersecurity. John Stutzman, Kevin, did you guys get a chance to hear that at all yet?
Yeah, a little bit. I haven't finished it yet. My question is, and I just put a link in the notes. If we acquire a Captain Kirk chair for his dorm room, could we get him like a Captain Kirk outfit? I just think it would add to the Frontiers podcast if we got him the real Captain Kirk chair and had him.
Hey, if you get, I want a real Captain Kirk.
Yeah, but is he more a Captain Kirk, or he's more of a Spock?
No,
science guy. So
that's true. That's true.
Or
he's so multifaceted. That kid.
He's probably more of a Captain Pike, actually.
You're probably right. You're probably right. Yeah. That's a good analogy. Cyber Frontiers, it'll get its own feed in about a month or so, and we'll load those all out there, and you can get that. If you're wondering if maybe it's this that you're listening to this podcast 6 months after we recorded it, head out to theaverageguy.tv and look for Cyber Frontiers, and Christian, we'll have a few of those by then. So thanks, Christian, for doing that as well. John, thanks for bringing that up. Well, at it, let me say that Bill Rockhold, who has not ever been on the podcast here live, he may be shortly, put a nice little post together on the RAV Power, kind of like all-in-one. It's like a 5-in-1. You can put SD cards in it. You can put USB flash drives in it. It's got a 3,000 milliamp battery in it. You can load information to it. It's pretty cool. All the things it can do, it's Wi-Fi enabled, so you can log into it. You can create a gateway with it. You can stream your videos from it. It's pretty cool, and it's $45. I thought it was pretty cool. He reviewed it. That's out at the site. Go to theaverageguy.tv/ravpower, all one word, RAVPOWER. RAVPower will get you there. I was pretty impressed. I edited his post this last week, and we posted it. I thought that's a pretty cool little, if you're looking for an all-in-one kind of something to, if you're going to be in the car, we've tested a few of those portable hard drives that we've taken out. Most of them you got to have a plug, and they don't get very, very good battery life. And this one does pretty well. And so it's one of those things you might want to check it out again. It wasn't very expensive. Thanks, Bill, for reviewing that, and so give him some kudos. Put a few nice things to say about that out on the post, and then the Average Guy Tech Scholarship Fund paid for that, and you guys have been really faithful to use the Amazon links out at theaverageguy.tv/Amazon, and I appreciate you doing that. We turn those dollars. In fact, John will have a brand new C920 camera coming up here, courtesy of the Tech Scholarship Fund, and he will get a better, and he'll test that.
I'll have to give you a review.
Test that camera for me, and so we'll upgrade John Zadler's camera with a little bit of scholarship fund. I mentioned those were $65 this week. They've gone up to 70 cents, but it's $5. So it's well worth the $70 if you're going to do any kind of. And Kevin, I think you'll probably you've already ordered one already since we've been talking.
Potentially.
Kevin came in. He's like, "Oh, I gotta get a." We've all upgraded, and he's like, "I gotta get a C920."
Just use Jim's link.
Yeah, averageguy.tv/Amazon. So, Kevin, real quick, as we kind of come in for a landing, but with Nest now being an official part of Google and they're all in, there's some things about SmartThings home automation that you've kind of been around. I don't want to get too deep into this conversation, but I know nothing about that, so give me a little background on how that's working.
The home automation stuff has kind of taken off. I have a Nest thermostat and I have Nest Protect, the smart carbon monoxide smoke detectors. And the nice thing about Nest is they have their own app, they have their own software, it's a self-contained ecosystem. The problem is it doesn't really connect with other things. So over time, there's been Casa Vera, there's all these different names, and the idea is you'll hear things like Z-Wave is a networking technology that these smart home devices use for outlets and for plugins and for timers and things, and Zigbee's another one, and there's 3 or 4 different formats out there, and there's 2 guys kind of rising to the surface, SmartThings and Revolve. And SmartThings probably has the lead right now just because their device is out there, but they make a hub, and the hub is the focal point in your home to manage and talk to all these Z-Mode and other devices. Today they're kind of in their infancy. I bought one of the hubs and some of the devices, so it's like this guy is a moisture sensor. You set this on the floor in the basement. There's 2 metal dots on the back. If water hits those, it sends you a note. So, Jim, is there any way you could share my screen?
No, yeah.
Is that possible?
Here, yeah. You need to share your screen.
Okay.
Over to the left, it's a green icon.
Left green icon.
You'll see it's the second one down. You bet.
Yep.
It'll ask you what to choose. You bet. And I'll freeze your camera so you're the one in focus.
All right. So the idea is this. Then once you have all your devices up and running, you can set these scenarios of things that you'll be working on and dealing with. So here's a double demo for you. This is my Android tablet through TeamViewer. So I'm running TeamViewer on my PC, and I'm able to remotely control my Samsung Android tablet. So this is the SmartThings interface. If I click on this happens to be a little key fob for my keychain. It's my SmartSense presence. And this basically tells the system when I'm home and when I'm not home. But it also ties in with something they call geofencing that uses the GPS in your phone tied into the app, so that you can set up things like, hey, when I'm 10 miles from home, I want the thermostat to be set to a certain temperature. Or when I pull up to the end of the driveway, I want the garage door to open. I want the light to turn on in the garage. I want the Sonos music system to turn on. And then I'll flip over to, they've got a huge community out there that is creating smart apps. Run my bath. So if I click on smart apps, these are pre-written things for like convenience. One of these is the big turn off. Turns off every light in the house just by hitting that button. Bon Voyage or garage door opener. That would be a relay on your garage door and a motion or a proximity switch on your garage door that verifies that your garage door is closed. They did a cool one today with something called Twillo. Twillo is a cloud-based software product, and basically you type in a message and you can send it through your hub to your Sonos speakers. So, or other wireless music system in your house. So where would that be cool? Well, so think about the Nest thing. Nests are $120 a piece for the Protects. If you went with the First Alert version and let the smart things do the voice portion of it, so you could set up a little macro that if the smoke alert alarm in the basement goes off, it would broadcast a voice through all of your speakers to say, the smoke alarm in the basement has gone off. And Jim, I think you brought it up when we were doing the Nest thing, and the Smart Things guys copied your text perfectly. And when the alarm goes off, you could have it turn on the lights in the house and unlock the front door, and so it's just, I think we're just scratching the surface on all the cool stuff that you can ultimately do with these things.
Yeah. No, it sounds very interesting. I'm gonna have to dig a little bit in. Home automation's got to get easier. It's still kind of expensive and difficult, and there's been a couple podcasts I know Home On and some of the other ones have come up recently to address some of these things. But I still think we're at the early phases of it. This looks promising. It'll be interesting to see where Google goes with this, as now that they own Nest.
That's the and I'm sure, and these guys are the thing that won me over on Smart Things is they're not ignoring Nest. And Nest under pressure has had to open up their APIs, so they're starting to offer more of this ability to manage and interact with their technology as well. So I think we're heading to an interesting place. With all this said, keep in mind, Smart Things has only been shipping for a few months now, so it's not perfect, it's not rock solid, but go out to their lab website and their blog website, and it's just tons of regular guys like us who have figured out how to write these macros and write these lab things, and it's pretty cool stuff.
They're kind of like, when you think about it, if you could cook up these recipes like if this then that with these scenarios too, right?
It's fuzzy logic. It's the old fuzzy logic kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, pretty cool. We'll have to. What's that address? Do you know what's their web address?
It's smartthings.com, 2 T's, smartandthings.com, and then it's blog.smartthings.com and lab.smartthings.com.
Okay. Very cool. All right, good stuff. Very cool. Well, I think let's see. Let's do a quick lightning round, and Kevin, give me your video back when you get a second. We'll do a quick lightning round. John Stutzman, anything else you want to cover before we go?
Not really. I saw in the show notes somebody was going to be talking about 24-inch monitors. I was kind of looking forward to that. But
let's do it. We'll do it in the lightning round. Let me give that a quick run here, because I don't think we need to talk very much about it. I alluded to it earlier. We're setting up a brand new studio here at Gallup. It'll be a podcast and a learning studio. I am putting today. I've got some Dell 22-inch. They're 16 by 9 in resolution, and they're not bad. I've got 4. They do really well here. if I had my druthers, I would upgrade those to 24-inch Dell Ultra Sharp monitors and get those put on mounts. Is that the best? Let me ask the question: is that the best 24-inch monitor available out there for the price? They're $250 right now. IPS Ultra Sharp. I know there's a lot of other or IPS used to be everything a couple years ago, and Dell was one of the few ones doing it. Now it seems like you can buy those at Best Buy. But 24-inch, $250. Is that just the right way to go?
So Woot still has 27-inch HP. IPS is refurb for $349.
Okay, so maybe a 27-inch.
And that is the big resolution, the 2500 by 1400. I would, and killer stand on it, height adjust, and you can spin them vertically as well as horizontally.
That'd be a good one to have at home.
I've got 2 of them on my desk.
Okay. Yeah, for $349. All right, that sounds good. What else, John Stutzman? You got any thoughts on that?
No, I really I haven't looked at monitors for a while since I got my Series 9, and so I couldn't really give much advice on a 24-inch. That's why I was excited to. I was wanting to learn.
Yeah. Well, and then the other one, the other guy to talk to on this is Paul Brerin. He is a mastermind at monitors. And if you're ever in the community, if you go to tinkertry.com, Paul's got an amazing site that covers a lot of information. I don't know how that guy. People used to ask me all the time, I don't know how you find time to podcast, Jim, because you're doing all these podcasts. Well, I feel that way about Paul. He is writing a ton that's out there, and he is a monitor guru, so we'll have to maybe pose that question to him.
Jim, I saw a monitor this week there at one of the computer places near my place. Like, I think it was a 29. I don't know if it was a 29-inch monitor, but it was like 60. What is it called? 16 by 20 or 21 by whatever. It was like a widescreen. The thing was $500.
Ultra wide.
Yep, the ultra wide.
It was like Superman. It was like a 19-inch widescreen monitor, but like 2 of them next to each other. So the thing must have been like 4 feet across, but only a foot and a half high. So it was like. I said, man, I can just imagine some of these videos. Like when you have some 16 by 9 videos, but then you have some 20 by something, right? And even on the widescreen monitor, you see it puts the bars because it still has to make it more narrow. And this thing was long. Yeah. But I have a corner desk, so
Well, you need that thing to wrap, John.
Yeah, you need a wrap.
That thing to do. Kevin, you were going to say something.
Just when you do your web searches on monitors, I've had really good luck at Amazon and Newegg by throwing the term open box on there. They sell their returns pretty darn cheap. I picked up a couple of LG. They were 23-inchers that IPSs. They just happened to be the right size for what I was doing, and I paid under $100 for each of them.
Okay. These monitors that let me get a quick. Let me figure out what the ones I'm using right now are. Hold on. They're E2014Hs, which I think are just 20-inch monitors. I think that's the way that works with Dell.
Yep.
And when I first got up here today, they'd actually replaced them with some. There were some. The ones I had weren't very good, and I asked the hardware guys, "Hey, can you find me 4 that are a little bit better?" And so they brought them up today and installed them. And at first I thought, they're kind of small. But now that I've been on them for 2 hours, almost 3, looking at them, I don't know. Maybe I'll just hold on to these. I'm not out. Tim Blackett said something. It must be nice to spend your company's money on the studio. I'm really trying to, and this will be a first. I'm really trying to save the company money in this, and I think there's some smart ways to do this where we don't necessarily have to go all out or buy the most expensive stuff to make it work. And so for me, it's an exercise in how much can I get away, how much good stuff can I do, and not necessarily pay the top dollar. I'm cheap. You guys know that. I'm cheap in all the stuff I do at home. And so eventually, we'll kick in and buy some gear for this thing. But for now, I'm just trying to get it going on a shoestring and see what we can come up with. And the company appreciates that, I hope. So we're going to give it a try. But I will look at those. Although, Kevin, I probably won't have time. That Woot deal will probably go away before I get the opportunity to buy any monitors. But
I'll flag you on it the next time it comes around. It seems to cycle through them quite often.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, right? At this producer's table that I'm at right now, where I've got this set up, I really need to be able to see over them because eventually there'll be an instructor in the room, and so if they get too big, I can't block my vision to the instructor. I need to be able to make eye contact with them. So. I don't know. Maybe 24 is the max that I could go with. I don't know.
What kind of chair you got there, Jim?
Oh, it's just a regular office chair.
You need a Captain Kirk.
Yeah, you need a Captain Kirk.
I have to get that. I do need. So my office chair downstairs is mesh. It's got a mesh back, and that is nice. It kind of better airflow through that. So I may have to roll my office chair up here from time to time or get a better chair. This is kind of those cheap. The cheap office chairs, so we'll have to do something a little bit better than that.
Hit Craigslist for Herman Miller. Herman Millers are great chairs, and oddly enough, you find them on Craigslist at pretty reasonable prices.
Rock bottom prices, huh? Yeah, well, it'll be fun to put the studio together, and I won't. This will probably be the last time I do home tech from here. But we will. It was a good opportunity to kind of burn in the studio tonight, give it a try. I've got a podcast tomorrow morning called Called to Coach. We'll be on, I think, at 11 o'clock Central, 11 a.m. Central. We'll do 300 or 400 live for that show, which is pretty cool. Wow. So if this show tonight, let's see if I can check. Well, yeah, there's probably maybe 15 of us out there. So 10 to 15 of us watching live. That's pretty common for home tech. That's been good. That's always been what our numbers are. I never thought I'd do a show that would have 400, 500, 600 live people in it with 200 or 300 people in chat. That is pretty fun. So we have a good time. Coaching.gallup.com is where that can be found.
Hey Jim, I had one last thing.
Go ahead. You bet.
I don't think I've ever talked about this before, but in my free time, I made this drive bracket. I don't think anybody's ever heard about it.
I'm gonna have to unjoin that thread.
We're moving that thread. This is so a breakthrough announcement on your show. This is the production unit.
Oh, nice. Hold on, let me freeze you in there. There you go.
So that's the production unit. They did a very nice job on them. The guy who makes these for me is hitting the website now that he understands exactly what he's building, and the optical drive bracket that I did this week, I've got production.
Refocus your camera for me. Put your hand right up against the camera, and then there we go. Bring it back.
There we go. So the optical piece is done as well. I got those in stock, and I will be getting the order site ready this weekend. We should be able to take orders this weekend.
Nice. How much are they going to be?
I think I've locked into $23 for this guy.
That's not bad.
That will include all the screws that you could ever possibly need, and I'm finalizing. But this little guy I think will be $9 with the screws as well. $5 shipping on the big one, and I think I can get shipping down to about $3 on the little one in U.S.
Wow.
And we can combine shipping as well.
Nice.
That is quite a deal.
And thank you, Mr. Stutzman, for your in-depth videos on that technology.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.
It's pretty cool to watch that come together. I'll be honest. It's just over the last couple of months to see that kind of come together as a product has been pretty cool. So nice job to the both of you. I know you guys have put a ton of time into that, making it work. So nice work. We should probably have broken that over at homeservershow.com, Kevin. But
it's all timing. It's all timing.
It's all just being at the right place at the right time. And how many orders did you have to do a minimum?
I bought 100 of the disk drive brackets to start with, and I bought 200 of the optical drive brackets to start with. So we'll see how the ordering goes.
Okay. Well, keep us posted on that. We'll have to see how that. I'm sure it'll be interesting to see that, because certainly the community goes well beyond Home Server Show. But there's there's 4,000 people in those forums over there. So
it could take off.
Yeah. No, we'll see. Good stuff.
Maybe you can talk to a mod and he can maybe pin your. Oh wait, I think you're a mod. How did that get pinned to the top of the forums? I don't know how that got there. I don't know.
The community purchase.
Yeah.
Community purchase. Well, very cool. Well, we'll remind you here at the end of the show. Thanks for coming out. If you've made it this far, you're the most engaged 5% of all the listeners that we have out there. I know not everybody. We go an hour and 20 minutes, and not everybody can make it that far, but hopefully you have. And if you have, we say we appreciate you for being a faithful listener and a faithful contributor out to theaverageguy.tv. We appreciate that. Don't forget our Amazon link if you're purchasing out there, theaverageguy.tv/Amazon. We'll get you there and your purchases. And I want to thank you guys for doing that as well. It's been you've bought a lot from there recently, and so thanks for using our link. Do appreciate it. Don't forget a couple links. Don't forget to visit Cyber Frontiers, and maybe you got it in the feed. Go back and listen to it. Maybe you didn't even notice it was in the feed. Go out and give that a listen. Again, Christian and I will be doing another one this Friday. We are here every Thursday night except next Thursday, so I am taking the week off. I've got a lot of things going on. Sarah and I celebrate 25 years of marriage this weekend, and the kids are throwing us a party. We're pretty excited about that. And so I'm going to take the week off. We got family coming in from out of town, so no live show next week. That's whatever day that is, February 27th would be of 2014. We will be off. If you might be listening to this in a time shift mode, and that day is already gone well past that. But we've got a special celebration that weekend, and I just told my wife I'll take the whole week off for the most part.
Good move.
And, yeah. In fact, some people actually tried to schedule some things on my day, on the anniversary day, and I'm like, nope, not this year. Any other year, I'd take it, but this year, I definitely am not. So I'm going to celebrate that in the right way. So we appreciate you coming out every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out at theaverageguy.tv live. Thank you, Kevin and John for coming out tonight. It's a good show. Good to get together with you guys. Good to break in the new studio, even with the hold on, let's see what I said. Even with the hole in the ceiling or in the wall there, we'll get that fixed. And good to break in the new studio here at Gallup. We'll catch up with you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks for listening. Good night, everybody.